Welcome, everyone, to the For His Namesake Podcast, where we talk about leadership skills that this generation can use not only in their church, school, and community, but most importantly, their entire Christian walk. And so today we're continuing our 180 series, and last week we talked about Saul, later known as Paul, his conversion on the Damascus Road, and how that completely changed his life. Now today we're going to be talking about the Prodigal Son in Luke 15. And really, we're just going to go through the passage and talk about how this son had a 180 experience with his father and how that reflects us back to Jesus Christ. Now, in Luke 15, starting in verse 11, we see here, "And he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living." So this son had everything in the world, had everything he needed. His father provided for him. All he had to do was work. And here we are, we see that he takes everything he has, his money that his father had given him, all his wealth and possessions, and he goes away, leaves his family, leaves his father, and goes into a foreign country. And as we see that he lives it up, this son is just living it up. He's throwing it all away. And in the moment, he doesn't realize it. You know, it's same for sin. Sometimes we don't realize what we're doing because in the moment it's pleasurable. In the moment we're having fun. It's enjoyable. But then we see that it's all going to fade away. You know, I took some notes on it earlier. It says, how many of us have it all too good where we are, but we still want something else? You see, this son had it all. He didn't need anything else. He was set. He didn't need anything. And yet here we are. He's gone away. He's thrown it all away. And he wanted something more. See, we have it set. We have all we need. And he had all he needed, but he went and threw it away. Everything was fine. Everything was going great. His father had given him everything he ever needed. But he says, I still want more. He wants more, he wants more, he wants more. And it's the same thing for us. We want more. We continue to want more. That's how our world runs. The more wealth and power we have, the more successful we are in life. Now look at our lives. Is that how we act, like I just said? Do we want that more power? Do we want that wealth? Do we want success? Do we want the popularity? Or are we going to be content instead of prideful? Because all that is showing pride, that I'm better than this. There's something out there that's for me. This is not for me. I'm too good for this. You're never too good for your family. And just so you know, you're never too good for God. You know, it's that little phrase, you know, too big for your britches. Well, that's how this son was acting. He's getting too big for his britches. He had everything that he needed. And now you see he's starting to throw it away. And it says, when he spent all that he had, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want. So he started to want. He's in need now. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of the country, and he sent him to feed to his fields to feed swine, in other words, pigs, so to feed his pigs. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. So we see this son had everything he ever needed. He had it all. He had it set. Everything was perfect. Everything was going fine. He ran away, lived it up, had nothing left. And then a famine came. See, if he would have kept his money, he would have been fine. So now he's suffering. And now he's going to the lowest of low thing and feeding and living with the pigs in the mud. He's eating the pig slop. That's where he's at in life. You see, the story kind of takes two 180s. First of all, we're taking this first 180, right? He has it all. He's leaving home, right? And then he gets down. And when he gets down, he's all the way down in pig slop. Man, what a 180 we have here. Completely turns one way and then goes that way. He had it all, and now he has absolutely nothing. Man, what a story. But we will see another 180 in this story. But this is kind of the first 180 that takes place. So you see he's in the pig slop. He's with the pigs. But then we notice that no man would give him anything. That no man gave unto him. Because everybody else is probably suffering too. They're trying to store all their resources to get through this famine. So nobody's going to give this person anything. And then in verse 17, it says something very interesting. He said, and when he came to himself. Now that phrase, when he came to himself, I think it's showing that he's finally realizing what he did wrong. That his sin has now caught up with him, like it does in our life, because your sin will always find you out. And that he's realizing that this was a bad idea. He's realizing, why did I ever leave home? Because I would have never been here. I would have never been here suffering and living amongst pigs. He's realizing all this when he says that. When he came to himself, he finally got the memo. He finally realized. And it kind of seems like it's kind of too late now. He's at the lowest point of his life. And how often in our lives do we get to the lowest point? We hit rock bottom, and that's when we realize that's when we need God. That's when we need our Father in heaven. Sometimes we got to hit rock bottom to realize that Jesus and God is the rock at the bottom. And I think this is what's happening with this son. He's realizing that his decision has led him to this point, but now he realizes that his father was right all along. So it says, and when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father have bread enough to spare? And I will perish with hunger. So he's starving to death. But he's saying that his father's servants have more than he does. And he says, I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and I am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me one of thy hired servants. So now he's so desperate. He's realized what he's done, and he's realized he's sinned against his father. And he's going to say, I am not worthy of being in your presence. I have completely disowned you. I've disgraced you. But if you would only just let me be a servant. Just let me be a servant. That's all he asks. But then in verse 20, it takes a turn. It says, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and the shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fattened calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again, because he was lost, and is now found. And they began to be merry. You see here, he came back home. And that part that really stands out is that, but when he was a great far off, so he was still a ways off, but his father saw him and had compassion. He still loved him the same way he left before he left home. And he ran and fell on his feet and kissed him. That's the Father's love. And this is not only showing the prodigal son and his father, but this is showing us and Jesus Christ. You see, we are the prodigal son that's ran away. See, we are all like sheep and gone astray. We've all been lost somewhere. We've left the 99, but God looks for that one. God's looking for us. God still cares about us, even no matter how much we disown him, no matter how much we disgraced him, no matter how much we went behind his back and disappointed him, he still loves us the same exact way he did when he created us. Because he knew us before we were even born. He loves us that much, that just like the prodigal son's father, that he was looking for us, that he went out when we were a far way off and came and found us and saved us and told us to come back home and said, "Welcome home, son." Our Father does the exact same thing because he loves us so much that he'll provide for us by killing, in this instance, to kill a fattened calf. But our loving Father will provide for every need. And that he will see that we have been dead, but with his help and believing in him, that we will be alive forevermore, just like the Son. Because we were once lost, but now we're found. And now it's time to be merry as they are celebrating. But now we see this, after this second 180, we see the elder son that never left home, right? He said, "Now his elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said unto him, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fattened calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. And he was angry, and would not go in. Therefore came his father out, and entreated him. And he answered, saying to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgressed or at any time thy commandment. And yet thou never gave me a kid, that I may make merry with my friends. But as soon as this thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fat calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this thy brother was dead, and is alive again, and was lost, but now is found." You see, the brother was slightly non-understanding. He didn't understand what was going on. He saw that his brother left home, right, and came back, but it threw away everything. And now the brother that stayed is jealous that he has not gotten this special treatment. But the father said to him, Look, everything I have is yours. And our Father treats us the same way. But once again, the father of the two sons reminds the jealous son that never left home that your brother was lost, but now he's found, and was once dead, but now is alive. And that is the same for us. Our Father in heaven waits for us to come home, and he will go out and find us because he wants to welcome you home with open arms. But the question is for us today, are we willing to come home to the Father? Because are we finding ourselves far away from God? Are we struggling to see our relationship? Have we completely gone away from God? Is the question. Do we truly care about the Lord? That is the question. Are you lost? Or are you found? Are you dead? Or are you alive, like the prodigal son is? But I want to thank everyone for joining us today with this 180 series. Next week, we can continue this series as well through the end of the month. And hopefully the last week we'll have a special podcast with someone special. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. And please be willing to subscribe or check out other videos just to give us support. I want to thank everybody and hope to see y'all next Friday at 3. See you then. Good shepherd, I'll follow all my days.